White politician screams at black woman to go back where she came from during a heated town hall meeting. He had no idea she was the hero who saved his daughter and grandson from certain death. When he tries to silence her, she reveals a presidential medal that proves she rescued his family. But that's just the beginning. Watch as this powerful black woman exposes decades of corruption, stands firm against police intimidation, and brings down an entire corrupt network. From racist remarks to millions in stolen community funds, see how justice is finally served when the wrong person is told to go back where they came from. Will Jasmine run for Senate and transform the community that tried to reject her? Comment below with what you would do if you were in her position. And if you believe corrupt politicians should be held accountable, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories of justice being served. Jasmine Washington adjusted her navy blue blazer as she entered the crowded community center in Oak Ridge County. At 42, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had overcome significant challenges. Her natural hair was styled in a neat twist, and her briefcase contained meticulously organized notes about the local infrastructure projects she wanted to discuss. The town hall meeting was already packed when Jasmine arrived. She recognized many faces from the neighborhood where she'd purchased a modest home 6 months ago. Though new to Oak Ridge, Jasmine had quickly become involved in community initiatives, volunteering at the food bank and attending city council meetings regularly. "Excuse me," she said politely, finding an empty seat near the front. The elderly woman beside her smiled warmly. "First time at one of Senator Baldwin's town halls?" the woman asked. "Yes, I've heard he can be challenging to talk to," Jasmine replied carefully. The woman chuckled. "That's putting it mildly. Richard Baldwin has represented this district for nearly 20 years, and he's not exactly known for his open-mindedness." Jasmine had done her research on Senator Baldwin. His voting record spoke volumes about his priorities, which rarely included the diverse, working-class neighborhoods on the east side of town where Jasmine lived. Still, she believed in civic engagement and the power of respectful dialogue. Senator Richard Baldwin strode onto the small stage at precisely 7 p.m., his silver hair perfectly coiffed and his expensive suit tailored to hide his expanding waistline. At 63, he carried himself with the entitled air of someone accustomed to deference. "Welcome, constituents," he began, his voice booming through the microphone. "I've allocated 90 minutes for your concerns before my fundraising dinner this evening." For the first 30 minutes, Baldwin called on familiar faces, mostly older white residents from the affluent West Side neighborhoods. They asked softball questions about property taxes and the new golf course development. When Baldwin finally pointed to someone in Jasmine's section, she raised her hand confidently. To her surprise, he nodded in her direction. "Thank you, Senator Baldwin," Jasmine said, standing and speaking clearly. "I'm Jasmine Washington, a new resident of East Oak Ridge. I'd like to discuss the infrastructure bill that's currently tabled in committee. The proposed cuts would disproportionately impact public transportation options for working families in our community." Baldwin's expression shifted subtly, his smile tightening. "Ah, East Oak Ridge, we've had a significant influx of new residents in that area." The way he emphasized new residents sent a ripple of discomfort through the room. "Yes, it's a growing community," Jasmine continued steadily. "The data shows that improved public transportation would benefit the entire county's economy, reducing traffic congestion and connecting workers to jobs more efficiently." Baldwin's smile disappeared completely. "I've lived in this county my entire life, Ms. What was it again? Washington, Jasmine Washington." "Right. Well, Ms. Washington, perhaps you don't understand how things work here. We have traditions and values that have served us well for generations." Jasmine remained composed. "I understand the importance of tradition, Senator. I also understand economic data. The infrastructure improvements would create approximately 3,000 jobs and—" "Where exactly are you from?" Baldwin interrupted, his tone hardening. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Jasmine was aware of phones being raised, recording the exchange. "I'm an American citizen, Senator. I was born in Detroit, educated at Northwestern, and I've lived in 7 states throughout my career." Baldwin scoffed. "Well, this isn't Detroit, and we don't need outsiders coming in and telling us how to run our community. Maybe you should go back where you came from if you're unhappy with how we do things here." A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Someone murmured, "Did he really just say that?" Jasmine felt all eyes on her. The woman beside her reached over and squeezed her hand in silent support, but Jasmine didn't need it. She had faced prejudice before and had long ago learned to respond strategically rather than emotionally. "Senator Baldwin," she said, her voice calm and clear, "I came here tonight as a constituent to discuss policy, not my personal background. But since you've made it personal, perhaps we should discuss exactly who belongs in this community and who doesn't." Baldwin's face flushed red. "I think we've heard enough from you." Security, he called to a man standing near the door, please make sure this woman's microphone is turned off for the remainder of the evening. As a security guard approached, Jasmine calmly opened her briefcase. That won't be necessary, she said, her voice carrying even without the microphone. Senator Baldwin, before you continue, there's something you should know about me. The security guard hesitated, glancing between Jasmine and Senator Baldwin. The tension in the room was palpable as Jasmine reached into her briefcase with deliberate calm. Senator Baldwin, Jasmine said, her voice carrying across the now silent room. 7 years ago, your family was vacationing in Aspen. Your daughter Caroline and grandson Tyler were caught in an avalanche while skiing outside the designated areas. Baldwin's face drained of color. His fingers gripped the podium until his knuckles turned white. How do you know about that? He demanded, his authoritative facade crumbling. Jasmine continued calmly. The search and rescue team had called off operations after 48 hours. The conditions were deemed too dangerous to continue. Your family was told to prepare for the worst. The audience watched in stunned silence as the confrontation took this unexpected turn. Baldwin's campaign manager hurried to the stage, whispering urgently in the senator's ear, but Baldwin waved him away, his eyes fixed on Jasmine. I was leading a specialized rescue unit that winter, Jasmine explained, withdrawing a small box from her briefcase. I developed new thermal imaging technology during my time with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. When I heard about 2 missing skiers, I volunteered my equipment and expertise. Baldwin's breathing became visibly labored. Several audience members began recording the exchange on their phones. My team located your daughter and grandson in a pocket beneath 3 feet of snow. They had less than an hour of oxygen remaining. Jasmine's voice remained steady as she recalled the events. We extracted them and administered emergency care until the medical helicopter arrived. That's impossible, Baldwin stammered. The rescue team leader was a man named Jackson or Johnson. James Washington, Jasmine corrected. My father. He was the public face of the operation because at the time my work with DARPA was classified, but I led the technical aspects of that rescue. She opened the small box and removed a gleaming medal attached to a blue and white ribbon. This Presidential Medal of Freedom was awarded to me for that rescue operation and for the thermal imaging technology that has since saved 342 lives in similar circumstances. The medal caught the light as she held it up, the presidential seal clearly visible to everyone in the room. Baldwin stared at it, trembling slightly. Your daughter Caroline sent me a Christmas card every year until she passed away from cancer 2 years ago, Jasmine said, her voice softening slightly. Her last card mentioned how grateful she was that Tyler would graduate college and that she'd lived long enough to see it. She said those 5 extra years were the greatest gift anyone had ever given her. The elderly woman next to Jasmine whispered, "Oh my God," while several audience members began murmuring among themselves. Baldwin gripped the podium for support, visibly shaken. Why didn't you say something when you moved here? Why come to this meeting and ambush me this way? I didn't move here to confront you, Senator, Jasmine replied. I moved here because the research hospital offered me a position developing emergency medical technology. I came to this town hall as a constituent concerned about infrastructure. You're the one who made it personal. The campaign manager was now frantically signaling to Baldwin, making a cutting motion across his throat, clearly wanting to end the meeting. But the senator seemed unable to move, his eyes locked on the medal in Jasmine's hand. Tyler still has the stuffed bear I gave him in the rescue helicopter, Jasmine continued. He named it Hero. He brought it to my father's funeral last year. Caroline made sure he knew who really saved them that day. Baldwin's voice, when he finally spoke, had lost all its previous arrogance. I didn't know. They never told me it was a woman who found them when everyone else had given up, Jasmine finished for him. Who risked her own life climbing into an unstable snow formation, who kept your grandson breathing until the paramedics arrived. Yes, Senator, that was me, the same outsider you just told to go back where she came from. A heavy silence fell over the room. Someone in the back began to clap slowly, and soon others joined in. The applause spread until nearly everyone was standing, their faces showing a mixture of awe and respect for Jasmine and unmistakable disappointment in their senator. I don't want your apology, Jasmine said as the applause died down. I want you to explain why the infrastructure bill that would bring jobs and transportation to working families has been sitting in your committee for 9 months. I want you to explain why children in East Oak Ridge have to walk 3 miles to school because there's no bus service. I want you to remember that your job is to serve all your constituents, not just the ones who look like you or live in your neighborhood. Baldwin's campaign manager finally reached him, whispering urgently in his ear. The senator nodded weakly and leaned toward the microphone. I think we need to take a short recess, he managed to say before being escorted off the stage by his staff. As Baldwin disappeared through a side door, the crowd's attention remained fixed on Jasmine, who calmly returned the medal to its box and placed it in her briefcase. "Well," said the elderly woman beside her, "I think we might be looking at our next senator." The community center erupted into chaos the moment Senator Baldwin disappeared backstage. Local news reporters who had been quietly observing the town hall suddenly sprang into action, pushing through the crowd toward Jasmine. Smartphones captured every moment as attendees shared the confrontation on social media in real time. "Ms. Washington, could we get a statement?" called a reporter from the Oak Ridge Gazette, thrusting a recorder toward her. Jasmine closed her briefcase with a quiet click. "I came here tonight as a concerned citizen to discuss infrastructure issues that affect our community. That remains my only agenda." Marcus Daniels, a community organizer who had witnessed the entire exchange, stepped protectively to Jasmine's side. "Let's give Ms. Washington some space," he said firmly to the gathering crowd. At 38, Marcus had spent years advocating for East Oak Ridge residents and recognized a potential ally in Jasmine. "Thank you," Jasmine said quietly as Marcus helped create a path toward the exit. "Don't thank me yet," he replied. "Baldwin has powerful friends. What you did was brave, but there will be consequences." Outside in the cooling evening air, Jasmine took a deep breath. Her hands trembled slightly, the only outward sign of the adrenaline coursing through her system. She had not intended to reveal her connection to the Baldwin family rescue. That medal rarely left the safety of her home safe, but Baldwin's blatant racism had forced her hand. "You know, I've been fighting for that infrastructure bill for over a year," Marcus said as they walked toward the parking lot. "Baldwin's team wouldn't even take my calls." "How did you know so much about it?" "I did my research," Jasmine replied simply. "The proposed route would reduce commute times for East Oak Ridge residents by 47 minutes each way. That's nearly 8 hours of additional family time each week for working parents." Marcus looked impressed. "You've done your homework, but after tonight, Baldwin will either try to discredit you or attempt some insincere public apology to save face." "I'm prepared for either scenario," Jasmine said, reaching her modest sedan. "I documented the entire exchange and have the medal's authentication papers readily available." As if on cue, her phone buzzed. The screen showed a message from an unknown number. "Ms. Washington, this is Greg Thompson, Senator Baldwin's chief of staff. The senator would like to meet privately tomorrow morning. Please call to arrange details." Jasmine showed the message to Marcus, who whistled low. "That was fast. What will you do?" "Meet him, but not privately," she decided. "Transparency is essential when dealing with someone like Baldwin." Marcus handed her his business card. "Call me if you need backup. The East Oak Ridge Community Coalition would be happy to provide support." Jasmine had just arrived home when her doorbell rang. Standing on her porch was Catherine Baldwin, the senator's wife, her expensive perfume wafting through the evening air. "Mrs. Baldwin," Jasmine said, surprised but composed. "How did you find my address?" Catherine's perfectly manicured hands clutched a designer handbag. At 61, her face showed signs of multiple cosmetic procedures but couldn't hide her evident distress. "May I come in?" she asked, glancing nervously at a black SUV parked across the street. "Please, it's important." Jasmine hesitated, then stepped aside. Her security system would record everything, a precaution she always took after years of working on sensitive government projects. Catherine perched awkwardly on the edge of Jasmine's couch, declining offers of water or tea. "Richard doesn't know I'm here," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "What you said tonight about Caroline and Tyler, it's true. We were told the rescue team had given up hope. Then suddenly they were found alive." Her eyes welled with tears. "Caroline spoke of a woman who saved them. She described her as an angel with dark skin and the steadiest hands I've ever seen." But Richard refused to believe it. Catherine paused, seemingly choosing her words carefully. "He has certain views that wouldn't allow him to accept that reality." "Mrs. Baldwin," Jasmine said gently, "I didn't reveal that story to embarrass your family. Your husband publicly suggested I didn't belong in this community." Catherine nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "I know, and I've watched him do it to others before. I've remained silent for too long." She reached into her handbag and removed a thumb drive. "There's something you should see." "What is this?" Jasmine asked, not reaching for it. "Emails between Richard and developers planning to reroute the infrastructure project to benefit their new luxury condominiums. They're diverting funds meant for East Oak Ridge bus routes to build a private access road instead." Catherine placed the drive on the coffee table. "Caroline would have wanted me to do the right thing. She changed after the accident, became more compassionate, more aware of her privilege." "Richard never did." Jasmine studied Catherine carefully. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because you saved my daughter when no one else could," Catherine replied, standing to leave. "And because this community needs someone who cares about all its residents, not just the wealthy ones." As Catherine reached the door, she turned back. "Richard will try to discredit you. He's already made calls to find anything he can use against you. Be careful, Ms. Washington." After Catherine left, Jasmine stared at the thumb drive, considering its implications. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Baldwin's chief of staff, this time more urgent. Senator Baldwin would appreciate your discretion regarding today's unfortunate misunderstanding. He's prepared to offer his support for certain community initiatives in exchange. Jasmine didn't reply. Instead, she called Marcus Daniels. I need to verify some information, she told him when he answered. And then we need to talk about the next steps for East Oak Ridge. As she spoke, Jasmine noticed a car with tinted windows slowly driving past her house. The infrastructure fight was clearly just beginning, and Baldwin's public humiliation had only raised the stakes. By 7 a.m. the next morning, Jasmine had verified the authenticity of Catherine Baldwin's thumb drive. The emails contained detailed plans to redirect $14.3 million from the East Oak Ridge Public Transportation Initiative to construct an exclusive access road for the Westview Luxury Estates, a development partially owned by Baldwin's brother-in-law. Jasmine sat at her kitchen table, sipping coffee and reviewing her options. Her doorbell rang precisely at 8 a.m. Right on time, she murmured, checking the security camera on her phone. Marcus Daniels stood on her porch, accompanied by a woman Jasmine recognized as Tara Wilson, a respected civil rights attorney who had successfully challenged several discriminatory housing policies in neighboring counties. Thank you both for coming, Jasmine said, opening the door. I wasn't sure if bringing in legal counsel was premature, but after what I found last night. It's never too early for legal counsel, Tara replied with a warm smile. At 45, she had built a reputation for combining shrewd legal strategy with genuine community advocacy. Marcus briefed me on what happened at the town hall. I've been looking for a way to challenge Baldwin's stranglehold on infrastructure funding for years. Jasmine led them to her dining room where she had set up a secure laptop. Before I show you what I have, I need to be clear about my intentions. This isn't about personal revenge against Baldwin for his racist remarks. This is about ensuring East Oak Ridge residents get the transportation services they deserve. Understood, Marcus said, his expression serious. But be prepared, Baldwin's team has already begun a whisper campaign questioning your credentials and suggesting you're fabricating your connection to his family's rescue. That was fast, Jasmine remarked, though she wasn't surprised. Fortunately, I anticipated this. She opened her laptop and pulled up a news article from 7 years ago. The headline read, "Miraculous Rescue, Baldwin Family Found Alive After Avalanche." Though the article didn't mention Jasmine by name, it referenced classified technology developed by DARPA specialists. I also have this, she said, retrieving a framed photo from her office. It showed Jasmine in rescue gear, kneeling beside a hospital bed where Caroline Baldwin sat with her arm around a young Tyler. Caroline sent this to me with a thank you letter. It's dated and notarized. Tara nodded approvingly. Documentation is crucial. Now, what's on the thumb drive that had you calling us at midnight? Jasmine played the video first, a recording of a private meeting between Senator Baldwin and the developers of Westview Luxury Estates. Baldwin could be clearly heard saying, "The East Oak Ridge votes don't matter. Those people barely turn out for elections anyway. We'll redirect the funding, and by the time anyone notices, it'll be too late to stop the construction." Marcus's face hardened as he watched. When was this recorded? 3 weeks ago, Jasmine said. There's more. The emails show Baldwin received a consulting fee of $250,000 from the development company last quarter. Tara was already taking notes. That's a clear conflict of interest, possibly rising to the level of corruption, but we need to be strategic about how we use this information. Baldwin has powerful allies in local media and law enforcement. I've already experienced that, Jasmine said grimly. Someone followed me home from the grocery store this morning, a black SUV similar to the one that was watching Mrs. Baldwin last night. We need to move quickly then, Marcus decided. Baldwin's chief of staff has called a press conference for noon today, undoubtedly to control the narrative after last night's confrontation. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a notification. Speaking of controlling the narrative, she said, showing them the screen. Local news outlets were running a story titled, "Who is Jasmine Washington? Questions arise about town hall confrontation." The article questioned Jasmine's credentials and quoted an anonymous source close to the senator claiming she was a political operative sent to embarrass Baldwin. There was no mention of his racist remarks. Classic deflection strategy, Tara observed. They're trying to make you the story instead of addressing Baldwin's behavior or the infrastructure issue. Jasmine remained calm, though her jaw tightened slightly. I expected as much. That's why I've prepared this. She retrieved a folder containing her military service record, her presidential medal documentation, and letters from Caroline Baldwin. We need to be one step ahead, she continued. Baldwin will use the press conference to paint himself as the victim of a political ambush. He'll probably offer some token concession to East Oak Ridge to appear magnanimous. While still proceeding with the luxury development deal, Marcus added bitterly. Jasmine nodded. Exactly, so here's what I propose. A sharp knock interrupted her. Through the security camera, they could see two uniformed police officers standing on the porch. Ms. Washington, called one officer, we need to speak with you regarding a complaint filed by Senator Baldwin's office. Tara immediately stood. I'll handle this. As your attorney, I advise you to record everything but say nothing without me present. Jasmine activated her home's security recording system before opening the door with Tara beside her. Good morning, officers, Tara said professionally. I'm Tara Wilson, Ms. Washington's legal counsel. How can we help you? The older officer looked surprised to find an attorney already present. Ms. Washington is being asked to come to the station to answer questions about potentially threatening communications sent to Senator Baldwin's office last night. That's absurd, Jasmine said, keeping her voice level. I sent no communications to Senator Baldwin. Tara placed a gentle hand on Jasmine's arm. My client denies sending any communications to Senator Baldwin. If you have evidence of such messages, we'd be happy to review it. Otherwise, this appears to be harassment. The younger officer shifted uncomfortably. We're just following orders, ma'am. The complaint came directly from Chief Williams. Chief Williams, Marcus repeated from behind them. The same Chief Williams who received a $50,000 donation from Baldwin's campaign fund for the Police Benevolent Association last month. The officers exchanged glances. We can discuss this at the station, the older one insisted. My client will not be going anywhere, Tara stated firmly. If you wish to question her, you can do so here with me present, or you can return with a warrant. Additionally, I'll need the name and badge number of whoever authorized this visit. As the confrontation unfolded on her porch, Jasmine noticed Marcus quietly texting. Within minutes, two cars pulled up to her house. Local news reporters emerged, cameras already recording. Officers, called one reporter, can you comment on why Senator Baldwin has police questioning Ms. Washington after she revealed her role in saving his family? The officers quickly retreated to their patrol car, speaking urgently into their radios. Strategic media contact, Marcus explained with a slight smile. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Jasmine watched the police car drive away. Baldwin is escalating faster than I anticipated. We need to move to phase 2 immediately. Tara and Marcus nodded in agreement as they closed the door on the gathering media storm. By 11:30 a.m., the steps of the Oak Ridge County Administration Building were packed with reporters and curious citizens. News of the confrontation between Senator Baldwin and Jasmine Washington had spread like wildfire across social media. The hashtag #GoBackBaldwin was trending nationally, with video clips of his racist remarks being shared hundreds of thousands of times. Senator Baldwin's chief of staff, Greg Thompson, paced nervously behind the makeshift podium, checking his watch every 30 seconds. The press conference had been hastily arranged to control the damage, but Baldwin himself was running late. Where is he? Greg hissed into his phone. We need to get ahead of this story before it completely spirals. 3 blocks away, in a conference room at the East Oak Ridge Community Center, Jasmine sat with Marcus, Tara, and a dozen community leaders. Large maps of the proposed transportation routes were spread across the table, along with printouts of the incriminating emails from Baldwin's thumb drive. The timing has to be perfect, Tara advised, checking her watch. Baldwin's team expects you to be dealing with the police intimidation tactic. They won't anticipate you making a move during their press conference. Jasmine nodded, reviewing her notes one final time. Everyone clear on their roles. The assembled group, teachers, small business owners, healthcare workers, and community organizers from East Oak Ridge nodded in unison. Many had been fighting for the transportation initiative for years, only to be repeatedly stonewalled by Baldwin's office. Remember, Jasmine emphasized, this isn't about me or the senator's racist comments. This is about the $14.3 million that was promised to our community and is being diverted to benefit luxury development investors. Back at the administration building, Senator Baldwin finally arrived, looking haggard despite his expensive suit and professionally applied makeup. He immediately pulled Greg aside. Have you contained the Washington situation? He demanded. We're trying, sir, Greg replied, lowering his voice. The police visit backfired, someone tipped off the media, and Chief Williams is furious that his connection to your campaign donations was mentioned. Baldwin cursed under his breath. What about the other matter, the thumb drive? Greg's expression confirmed Baldwin's worst fears. We can't reach Mrs. Baldwin. She's not answering her phone, and her assistant says she left early this morning for her sister's house in Richmond. Damn it, Catherine, Baldwin muttered. He straightened his tie and forced a confident smile as he approached the podium. Cameras flashed as Baldwin raised his hands for silence. Thank you all for coming. I want to address the unfortunate misunderstanding that occurred at last night's town hall meeting. He cleared his throat. First, I want to make it absolutely clear that I welcome all constituents, regardless of their background or how long they've lived in our district. My comments last night were taken out of context during a heated moment. A reporter from the Oak Ridge Gazette immediately called out, "Senator Baldwin, you specifically told Ms. Washington to go back where she came from." "How is that being taken out of context?" Baldwin's smile tightened. "As I said, it was an unfortunate choice of words during a passionate discussion about local values and traditions. I've since learned that Ms. Washington is indeed the person who helped rescue my daughter and grandson several years ago, a fact I wasn't aware of during our interaction." "Why weren't you aware of it?" another reporter pressed. "Your daughter Caroline apparently sent Ms. Washington thank you letters for years." Baldwin's face flushed. "My daughter's correspondence was her private affair. Now I'd like to focus on the positive steps we're taking to address the concerns of all Oak Ridge residents, including those in the Eastern District." He gestured to Greg, who distributed glossy folders to the front row of reporters. "Today, I'm announcing a new initiative that will allocate $2 million for improved bus shelters and signage in East Oak Ridge." A murmur ran through the crowd. Everyone familiar with the transportation initiative knew the original plan had included $14.3 million for actual bus routes and service, not just cosmetic improvements. Baldwin continued, "This demonstrates my commitment to all parts of our community while maintaining fiscal responsibility." "Senator Baldwin," a strong voice cut through the murmuring crowd. Heads turned to see Jasmine Washington approaching, flanked by Marcus, Tara, and the East Oak Ridge community leaders. They formed an impressive group, diverse in age and ethnicity but united in purpose. Baldwin's practiced smile faltered. "Ms. Washington, this is an official press conference. If you'd like to schedule a meeting with my office." "I believe the public deserves to know the truth about the East Oak Ridge transportation funding," Jasmine said, her voice carrying clearly. She wasn't shouting, but her tone commanded attention. "Specifically, why $14.3 million approved for public transportation is being diverted to build a private access road for Westview luxury estates." The reporters immediately swiveled toward Jasmine, cameras flashing. "That's absurd," Baldwin sputtered. "The transportation budget allocation is still under committee review." Tara stepped forward, handing flash drives to several reporters. "These contain emails between Senator Baldwin and the Westview developers, documenting the planned diversion of funds. You'll also find records of a $250,000 consulting fee paid to the senator 3 weeks ago." The crowd erupted with questions. Baldwin's face drained of color as he frantically signaled to Greg. "This is a political stunt," Greg declared, trying to regain control. "These allegations are completely unfounded and potentially defamatory." "Are they?" Marcus challenged, stepping forward with his tablet. He played the video recording from the thumb drive, Baldwin's voice clearly stating his dismissal of East Oak Ridge voters. As the damning evidence unfolded, Catherine Baldwin emerged from a side entrance of the building. She walked slowly but deliberately to stand beside Jasmine. "The emails and recordings are authentic," she said quietly, her voice somehow cutting through the chaos. "I provided them to Ms. Washington because the people of East Oak Ridge deserve better representation." Baldwin stared at his wife in disbelief. "Catherine, what are you doing?" "What Caroline would have wanted me to do," she replied simply. "What I should have done years ago." Jasmine stepped to the microphone, her manner calm and professional in stark contrast to the unfolding chaos around Baldwin. "This isn't about last night's racist comments," she stated clearly. "This is about systemic corruption that has deprived working families of essential services while enriching a privileged few." The East Oak Ridge Coalition is filing a formal ethics complaint today and calling for an independent investigation into the misappropriation of transportation funds. As reporters shouted questions and cameras flashed, Baldwin was hustled away by his security team, his political future visibly crumbling before the assembled crowd. 3 days after the explosive press conference, Jasmine sat in her living room watching news coverage of the growing scandal. The headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen read, "State Ethics Committee launches formal investigation into Senator Baldwin's financial dealings." The thumb drive had proved more damaging than even Jasmine had anticipated. Beyond the Westview development scheme, investigators had uncovered a pattern of suspicious financial transactions spanning Baldwin's 19-year career. 3 different development companies had paid him consulting fees totaling over $1.2 million, all coinciding with redirected public funding that benefited their projects. Jasmine's phone rang, Marcus calling with an update. "The governor just announced a special task force," he reported, his voice energized. "They're freezing all pending infrastructure projects until they can review the allocation process. Baldwin's been temporarily removed from the Transportation Committee." "That's progress," Jasmine acknowledged, But what about the East Oak Ridge routes? Our community can't wait another year for reliable transportation. That's actually why I'm calling, Marcus replied. The state transportation director wants to meet with us tomorrow morning. She's looking for an interim solution while the investigation proceeds. After hanging up, Jasmine walked to her home office where she'd created a wall chart tracking the developments. Red strings connected key players in Baldwin's network: developers, police officials, local media executives who had initially tried to bury the story. Green strings highlighted allies and progress points: community leaders who had stepped forward, reporters who had pursued the corruption angle, state officials now taking action. Her doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. Through the security camera, she saw Tyler Baldwin, now a young man of 23, standing nervously on her porch. "Mr. Baldwin," she said, opening the door with surprise. "I wasn't expecting you." Tyler looked nothing like his grandfather, tall and slender with kind eyes. He shifted awkwardly from foot to foot. "Ms. Washington, I'm sorry to come unannounced. I just flew in from Boston when I saw the news." Jasmine invited him in, noting his MIT sweatshirt as he passed. "You're studying at Massachusetts Institute of Technology?" Tyler nodded. "Biomedical engineering. Actually, that's partly why I'm here." He carefully placed a worn stuffed bear on her coffee table, the same one she had given him in the rescue helicopter 7 years ago. "You probably don't remember this, but—" "Hero," Jasmine said softly, recognizing the toy immediately. "Your mother told me you still had him." Tyler's eyes glistened. "Mom said you were the real hero that day. She made sure I knew the truth, even when Grandpa refused to acknowledge it." He took a deep breath. "I'm developing a new type of emergency locator beacon for avalanche victims. It's based on the thermal technology you pioneered. I was hoping maybe you could look at my research." The request touched Jasmine deeply. "I'd be honored," she said sincerely. "There's something else," Tyler continued, his expression growing more serious. "Grandpa called me this morning. He's desperate to make this scandal go away. He offered to publicly apologize to you and support the East Oak Ridge Transportation Initiative if you'll agree to drop the ethics complaint." Jasmine's expression hardened slightly. "The ethics complaint wasn't filed by me personally. It belongs to the East Oak Ridge Coalition now, and the evidence speaks for itself." "That's what I told him," Tyler said with a hint of pride. "But he's sending his lawyer to meet with you tomorrow. I thought you should be prepared." As Tyler left, promising to return with his research materials, Jasmine immediately called Tara to inform her about Baldwin's attempted deal. "Classic intimidation tactic," Tara observed. "When threats don't work, try bribes. When bribes don't work, try legal pressure." "His lawyer is coming tomorrow," Jasmine reported. "I'll be there," Tara promised. "In the meantime, we've received 3 more whistleblower reports from former Baldwin staffers. This is bigger than just the transportation funds. Baldwin's been running Oak Ridge County like a personal fiefdom for decades." The next morning, Senator Baldwin's attorney arrived precisely at 9 a.m., a sharp-dressed man with a calculating smile who introduced himself as James Morrison from the prestigious firm of Morrison, Klein and Associates. "Ms. Washington," he began smoothly after declining coffee, "my client recognizes that there's been an unfortunate misunderstanding that has escalated unnecessarily. He's prepared to make a public statement acknowledging your role in his family's rescue and to fast-track approval for $5 million in transportation improvements for East Oak Ridge." Tara, sitting beside Jasmine at the dining room table, raised an eyebrow. $5 million. The original allocation was $14.3 million. Morrison's smile didn't waver. "Given budget constraints and the current political climate, $5 million represents a significant commitment. In exchange, Senator Baldwin would appreciate the East Oak Ridge Coalition reconsidering its ethics complaint." "That's not possible," Jasmine replied calmly. "The evidence has already been submitted to the State Ethics Committee and the Attorney General's office. The investigation is proceeding independently now." Morrison's pleasant demeanor cooled slightly. "Perhaps I should be more direct, Ms. Washington. My client is concerned about certain distortions of his private communications. Computer records can be manipulated, as I'm sure you're aware with your technical background." The implied threat hung in the air between them. "Are you suggesting the evidence was falsified?" Tara asked sharply. "I'm merely pointing out that complex legal battles can damage everyone involved, regardless of the ultimate outcome," Morrison replied. "Senator Baldwin has served this community for nearly 2 decades. His reputation and legacy deserve consideration." Jasmine leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Morrison, please convey to your client that his legacy is precisely what's at stake here. Evidence wasn't manipulated. The corruption wasn't fabricated. The racist remarks weren't misinterpreted." She stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "If Senator Baldwin truly wants to preserve any positive aspects of his legacy, he should cooperate fully with the investigation and make amends to the communities he's harmed through his actions." As Morrison gathered his briefcase to leave, he delivered a final warning. Senator Baldwin has many friends in powerful positions, Ms. Washington. This crusade of yours might feel righteous now, but consider the long-term consequences for your career and reputation. After he left, Tara checked her phone to find multiple messages waiting. The State Ethics Committee wants to interview you tomorrow, she reported, and the Attorney General's office has officially upgraded their inquiry to a criminal investigation. Jasmine nodded thoughtfully. Baldwin's attorney wouldn't have resorted to veiled threats if they weren't truly worried. She glanced at her wall chart, adding Morrison's name with a red string connecting him to Baldwin. What happens next? Tara asked, following Jasmine's gaze to the increasingly complex network of connections. We keep pushing for transparency, Jasmine replied, and we make sure East Oak Ridge doesn't get forgotten in the process. The transportation issue was never about Baldwin's racist remarks or even his corruption. It was about families needing reliable ways to get to work, school, and health care. As she spoke, her phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking, federal authorities join Baldwin investigation, potential money laundering charges. The dominoes were falling faster than anyone had anticipated, and the small thumb drive Catherine Baldwin had placed on Jasmine's coffee table had become the catalyst for exposing decades of corruption. 6 months later, Jasmine stood at the podium on the steps of the newly renovated East Oak Ridge Community Center. Behind her, a bright blue bus emblazoned with Oak Ridge County Transit Authority waited for its inaugural journey. A diverse crowd of several hundred residents had gathered for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, their faces reflecting a mixture of triumph and vindication. Today marks more than just the launch of a new bus route, Jasmine began, her voice carrying across the attentive crowd. It represents what can happen when communities stand together and demand accountability from their elected officials. The journey to this moment had been arduous but transformative. Senator Richard Baldwin had ultimately pleaded guilty to corruption and money laundering charges, accepting a plea deal that included resignation from office, significant financial penalties, and 2 years of house arrest. His political career was over, his reputation in tatters. More importantly, the investigation had triggered a comprehensive audit of county resources and spending practices. The original $14.3 million allocated for East Oak Ridge transportation had been recovered and properly redirected. Additional funds misappropriated over the years had been identified and restored to their intended community programs. This bus route will reduce commute times for East Oak Ridge residents by an average of 47 minutes each way, Jasmine continued, gesturing to the gleaming vehicle. That means parents will have more time with their children. Students will have reliable transportation to school and libraries. Elderly residents can access medical care without depending on expensive private services. In the front row, Marcus Daniels nodded approvingly, alongside other community leaders who had stood with Jasmine that day at Baldwin's press conference. Beside them sat Tyler Baldwin, who had become an unexpected ally in rebuilding trust between different parts of the county. None of this would have been possible without courage, the courage of whistleblowers who risked their positions to expose wrongdoing, the courage of community members who spoke up despite intimidation, and the courage of one woman who knew that truth matters more than power. Jasmine gestured toward Catherine Baldwin, who sat quietly near the back of the crowd. The investigation had revealed that Catherine had been collecting evidence of her husband's corruption for years, waiting for the right moment and ally to help expose it. Her testimony had been crucial in the case against Baldwin and in identifying other officials involved in his schemes. Today we celebrate not just new bus routes, but a new chapter for Oak Ridge County, Jasmine declared. One where transparency and accountability aren't just buzzwords, but guiding principles for how our community operates. As Jasmine cut the ceremonial ribbon, cheers erupted from the crowd. The first passengers, including senior citizens, students, and workers, boarded the bus for its inaugural route through East Oak Ridge and connecting to the downtown business district and medical center. After the ceremony, as the crowd began to disperse, a reporter from the Oak Ridge Gazette approached Jasmine. Ms. Washington, there are rumors circulating that several community leaders have asked you to consider running for Baldwin's vacant Senate seat in the special election next month. Any comment? Jasmine smiled thoughtfully. My focus has been on ensuring the transportation initiative was properly implemented. As for what comes next, she paused, considering her words carefully. I believe our community needs representation that truly understands the diverse needs of all residents. Whether that's me or someone else, what matters is that we maintain the momentum for positive change. Later that evening, Jasmine sat in her backyard with Marcus, Tara, and several other key allies from the past 6 months. The mood was celebratory but reflective. When I moved to Oak Ridge, I never imagined becoming the catalyst for exposing decades of corruption, Jasmine admitted, sipping her lemonade. I just wanted to help improve transportation options for working families. That's precisely why you were effective, Tara observed. You weren't seeking personal revenge or political gain, you were focused on systemic issues that affected real people. Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest. About the Senate seat, Jasmine. The filing deadline is next Friday. We've already collected twice the required signatures to put you on the ballot. Jasmine gazed thoughtfully at the gathering. These people had become more than allies, they were friends who shared her vision for a more equitable community. If I run, she said carefully, it wouldn't be about replacing Baldwin. It would be about redefining what leadership means in Oak Ridge County. It would mean prioritizing transparency, inclusivity, and practical solutions over partisan politics. That's exactly why we need you, said Alina Martinez, a teacher from East Oak Ridge High School. My students have been following your story. You've shown them that standing up to injustice isn't futile, even when facing powerful opposition. As the evening progressed, Jasmine found herself increasingly drawn to the possibility. Her background in technology development, emergency management, and now community organizing had prepared her for challenges she'd never anticipated. The next morning, Jasmine visited Caroline Baldwin's grave, placing a small bouquet of flowers beside the headstone. Your mother and son are doing well, she said quietly. They've shown remarkable courage these past months. I think you'd be proud of them. As she stood in the peaceful cemetery, Jasmine reflected on the strange path that had led her here. 7 years ago, she had saved Caroline and Tyler from an avalanche, never imagining how their lives would remain intertwined. Now she stood at another crossroads, one that could potentially impact thousands of lives across Oak Ridge County. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Campaign office space secured. Ready when you are. Jasmine took a deep breath of the crisp morning air. The Presidential Medal of Freedom she'd received for the Baldwin rescue had recognized her past courage. But perhaps her future called for a different kind of bravery, the courage to step forward and lead. I'm ready, she texted back, her decision made. As she walked back to her car, Jasmine noticed the headline on her news app, Washington to run for Senate, East Oak Ridge champion considers historic campaign. The path to justice had been challenging, but it had transformed not just a bus route or exposed a corrupt politician, it had awakened a community to its own power and potential. And for Jasmine Washington, it had revealed a purpose greater than she had ever imagined when she first moved to Oak Ridge County. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with the same strategic determination and moral clarity that had guided her through the confrontation with Baldwin. The journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning.